Hey guys, my name is Rudy, and today we're going to continue talking about my Windows installation. So I'll walk us through what we did, and now it's time to actually put it and see if it actually worked. My drive, the one that we worked on. So when we last left Rudy, what we were doing is we actually system prepped the drive. So this thing came out of this computer here. Actually, I'll boot this and we can talk about it as we go. I love these key type systems. Now I'm going to have to press F12 on my thing as soon as my keyboard lights up. And this you're going to have to kind of just know where you are, what your system is, and what's in it. Mine is a very complicated system. There it goes. So we're doing the F12 boot menu. If you do it too much, you may lock up the keyboard and it will just continue to sit there. Here is our boot screen. So the top one for me is my NVMe drive, which is now blank because I accidentally deleted it. This is also the same thing, and this is the USB drive that I have in here. And my system adapted itself to actually boot the UEFI or turn one of my DVDs into a UEFI. My item that we're going to boot to is P6. That's just where it is. So here's kind of what happened and what we did. So the problem that we had was I started out with this motherboard here. Motherboard I removed from this computer, installed this new one. The new one only had the AHCI and did not have the IDE or SATA anymore. The computer over there in the back corner did. So what I did is I took this disk out of here and put it over there. When I booted it in here, it gave me a 7B error, means access to boot disk issues. Luckily, like I said, the computer over there still had the IDE and SATA setting, and that seemed to work. So when it came up, I went to Windows System 32 and I selected sysprep. If there's issues with this, because you're only limited about 3 times for this thing, otherwise it'll fail. And what you need to do is, there's a way to rearm it. You can Google the internet to figure out how that's done. But luckily for me, it worked the first time, so I won't go into that detail unless you guys really want to. I can point you to the resources that got it. So now we got updating registry. And how I came up with this, like I said, I ran a bunch of chats and forums that were completely worthless, no help at all. So, out of like all the things from my channel of doing stuff and things, I ran into this, and I spent about 3 weeks troubleshooting this, hoping this saves somebody some extra time if you want to continue running Windows 7 on a modern day PC. The fact that this computer only had that AHCI and on another Intel version of this and no IDE or SATA selections guaranteed me a blue screen once I moved it over. So what we did is, like I said, we wrapped it up over there under System 32 sysprep. It completed everything and I had it shut down. Now I took that disk and I put it in here. The way I came up with that is Windows XP had some issues too. If I were to move my Windows XP drive from one computer to another, I had to go in there and I had to delete the IDE controller. For some odd reason, this seems to be a problem. If I gave you that drive as it was without doing that, your stuff would immediately be blue screen. So the ways to fix that in Windows XP is either before you move it over to the new computer, you go into Device Manager and you delete the IDE controller. Or if you've already done it and you can't do it on that computer, you can boot with Hiren's boot disk or the Strillis that I talked about before, the Windows Live boot disks that are available. And a lot of those you're able to go into the Device Manager in there and delete it there. Some of the older Hiren boot disks actually just had a like a short script that would actually do the same thing. So what this thing is doing now, since there is nothing like that, Windows 98, there was an enum that you would delete in the registry and it would be forced to find all your hardware on the new computer, and that would move relatively easy. I never really understood why Windows 7, the only way you can reinstall Windows 7 without losing all your stuff is if you can get into Windows 7 and reinstall it there. The older systems had what we call the dirty reload, which means even if you weren't able to get into it, you would just reinstall it and it would remember everything. Here, if you're booting into Windows and you can't get in, and you put it in Windows installation disk, and if it doesn't delete the partition, what you're going to have is a windows.o folder where you have to transfer all your profiles. Your programs won't work. You'll still have all your pictures and things, but it's just a bigger pain. And I don't know if I'm just hard-headed or just the way I am, but I definitely wanted to see this work. So this is kind of one of the reasons that I kind of chose to go this route. What's going to happen now is this is almost like, I don't know if you remember, guys, some of the newer computers when you bought them. When you first turn them on for the first time, you would see something like this, and it would run the stuff. In here, we are going to have to recreate the Windows profile, a new one, and then we can delete that at a later time. But it'll remember all your icons. It may change the desktop. It's going to find all the new hardware on here, and that's going to be the next chapter on how to identify hardware that is terribly labeled or it's unknown. So that's going to be another segment how that works. Kind of take you through my setup over here. My computer is actually quite the beast. We got 4 Blu-ray drives, got 8 physical hard drives, and down here we have 3 tape drives, soon to be number 4. It's in the box waiting to be installed. I know this is about as exciting as watching paint dry, but I figured I'd go over some of the stuff that we had before. The one thing I didn't finish in my series was you will see that there is a system file in here that's corrupted. It's the SFS sync04.sys. This is a Star Force. This is a copyright protection that this thing had, and it got corrupted. And this is one of the few things I could not fix with my live disk, so I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do that in my upcoming videos. Let's see, kind of overall, we talked about some of the other items we talked about in the past videos were Jelly Bean or the Windows Live Disks. You can go in there and you can retrieve your actual license key number as it was on the sticker that was there once upon a time, either on your computer or in a book that you got, manual. We talked about BIOS settings. That video is also available. How the BIOS has changed over the years from a strictly keyboard to now mouse and quite complicated. We talked about the AHCI and SATA and IDE controls. That was the issue that caused all this. Pretty much when the computer Windows was installed under the SATA and IDE section, and when I moved over here, that selection was not available, and therefore it refused to boot with blue screen of death, 7B error code. I talked about the sysprep, which is the utility that we use within Windows to get everything going. And we talked about the rearm, which is going to be something that you guys have to do. I may make a video on that. If you guys have comments, I can definitely cover that. And the last part that we have still left to do is the hardware ID. So pretty much what this thing is doing now, this thing is installing all the different devices that you have on here, and this is the only way to force the registry to actually do them. I really apologize. I really didn't know how fast or slow this thing is going to do this process. And I'm also wondering if my battery on my phone will actually last that long. Kind of funny how things have changed. As far as videos, you can check out my setup over here. This is going to be like a racer setup. I made some videos on how that works, and I'm very excited to finally put this mess behind me and clean this thing up, because not exactly in wonderful condition, so we really have some work to do.